Welcome back, students. Welcome to our AriserTalent. I'm your maths teacher Arpita Sharma and we are studying chapter statistics. So in that particular chapter we have gone through the basics, the cumulative frequency, the mean, and right now after studying the advantage and disadvantage of mean, we have moved to the three methods of mean, okay, of doing our questions for ungrouped, sorry, not ungrouped but grouped data. Okay, so we were having these three methods and we have covered one method, and that was what? The direct method. Okay, so direct method we have covered that one, right? And talking about the name, this is what? Statistics. So this is our chapter. Okay, now talking about the three methods that I have told you. These three methods, we have covered this direct method here, and after that we have to do this question. Now we have talked about the way we are going to solve this question, and that was by having this table. So there was this table in which we are having entries. Maybe it should be start from here. The first one was class interval, right? Anyway, you have to use the information which is given now. So first is class interval. This is the first one. Now class interval, then frequency. Now frequency we denote it by Fi. I is the column, okay. Then we'll do ourselves a favor and get the value of Xi, okay. So this is mid mark or class mark, mid value of class mark. So we'll write class mark here, okay. So this class mark will be basically what? Class mark is Xi. Class mark is nothing but Xi. It should be here. Okay, now if this is Xi, we'll have this one more column, that will be Fixi, okay. So that will be the multiplication of this frequency to this mark column. Now, having these lines a little bit aligned, that's a class interval, right? Okay, and there was our frequency, and that was class mark. So now how many rows? Because we have created the column, right? So about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 rows here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have 5 rows here. So we are creating 5 plus 1. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and plus 1. Why plus 1? Because we have to do the summation thing also, okay. Extending it to the last column. Okay, now we have created this table. Now what we have to do, just put the values. So the interval is 15 to 25, then 25 to 35, and then 35 to 45, and then 45 to 55, and then 55 and to 65, and there is a summation. Okay, so now we will talk about the frequency. I'll just copy the frequency right from that given table here. That will be 60, and then 35, and then 22, and then 18, and then 15. Okay, so we have to sum it up anyway because we have to use the summation Fi thing. So we can just sum it up here. That will be 5 to 7, or you can write it 10 and 10, 20. So 0 here, 2 carry, 8, 9, 10, 10, 3, 13, 14 and 15. So that will be 150. 150 frequency, that means the number of observations are 150. Now the class mark. Class mark is what? The mid value. If I just look at that, I can find it that the value is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I've told you how to find this value. You have this mid value such that the number of values upside that should be the number of value upside that, downside that. Okay, so basically we are having this formula and I am writing this formula. Class mark here, class mark will be equals to that's lower limit plus upper limit by 2. Okay, so this is the class mark, that is equals to xi. Now here this xi will be lower limit plus upper limit by 2. You can write it as it is, or else what you can say that as per the procedure you should write it, preferably you should write it like this. That will be 15 plus 25 by 2, here 25 plus 35 by 2, then here 30, this is 5, okay, mind it. This is 35 plus 45 by 2, and this is 45 plus 55 by 2, and here it is 55 to 65 by 2. Right, so this is lower limit plus upper limit by 2 in all these. Okay, now this will be equals to, that will be equals to 20, that will be 30, then 40, then 50, and then the last one is 60. Now I'm having this Fi and I'm having this Xi. So what do I have to do? Just multiply this to this and write it over there. So this 6 and 2, this is 12 and 2 zeros. So 1200. Now this 35 and 0, so we'll write 0 here. Now 3 to 5, that will be 15. That is 3 5s are 15, 5, 1 carry, 3 3s are 9, and 1 from 1 carry, that will be 10. Okay, now then this 22 multiplied by 4 is 10, 22 multiplied by 4 is 88. So this is 880. Now come to this one, this is 18 and this is 50. So 0 here. Now 5 multiplied by 8, 40, 4 carry. Now 5 ones are 5 plus 4, 9. So 900. Now here that will be 0 here. 6, 5, 30. 6 5s are 30. So 3 carry. Now 6 ones are 6. So 9 again. Okay. Right. So now what you have to do, this is xi. Now I have to, should I sum it up? No, because I am having this formula x bar equals to summation xi fy, which is that last column upon summation fi. So I have to add this column and that column. So now I have to add this column too. Okay. 0, 0, 0 and all the zeros are here. Will give you a more 0 here. Now 8 and 5. 13. 1 carry, 9 and 8 and 1. So that will be 18, 19, 20. Or you can say it like 8 and then 10, that will be 19 and that will be 20. So 0 and 2 carry. Okay, so 2, 3 and 4. So that will be 4030 when you calculate it. So Done with that? Now what is the next procedure? You have to find out the x bar or the mean. So we have this formula. By formula, x bar equals to summation xi summation xi where I equals to 1 to k and I equals to 1 to k or n, whatever you want to write is right. You may write, and k is what? Number of observation here, upon summation fi. So x bar's value will be equals to what, student? It will be simply 4030, the summation xi fi value, and then the value of frequency 150 here. Okay, so that will cut. Now if I talk about this 15 and then 403, so 2s are 30, 0 here, 1 here. Okay, 6 are, that will be 3, 9, 90, so 0 and 1. Okay, so 26.9, that will be the answer. Okay, because this will carry on like this only. Okay, so note this. Now student noted it. Okay, so this is the first method, and what was that? This was the direct method. Now you are having some time for assuming things. Okay, so understood what I want to say? We are moving towards the next method. Next method is about to start. Right. So there is a next topic which is assumed mean method. What is it? Assumed mean method. Now what is assumed mean method? I am just you just have this slide here. You can note this out, but to understand it in a good way, you have to say it here on the green board. Now it's saying that arithmetic mean, assumed mean, that means you have to assume the mean. And now look at the formula, our formula of direct method. Direct method, if I talk about, so in the direct method, what I was having, in the direct method, I was having this formula as summation I equals to 1 n fi xi upon summation I equals to 1 to n fi. Now what has been changed? If you look carefully, there will be difference of di and xi. This is the actual difference. You have put di here in the place of xi. So this is the change we are going to talk about. So first, there are some points that to discuss. The assumed mean is chosen. The assumed mean is chosen in such a manner that it should be one of the central values. Now I'll tell you the what is the mean of central value and what is the mean of one of the central value. Okay, the deviation are small. The deviation will be small, and one deviation is 0. Now the word comes here, which is repeating itself and which is deviation. And deviation is basically it's d. This is d, and the deviation initial is also d. That means this is basically what? Deviation. Now this is the new word we have to concentrate about, because we know fi, we know value of n, but we don't know this di, that means deviation. So this is the new element that have been introduced in our this next method. First method we have talked about, which is direct method. There was no such thing. We simply fi and xi values. If I am having class interval also, then we just put the value class mark as xi and we'll calculate the fxi. Now you are having this di and it's having some connection with the given values because you have to calculate this di out of the given values. Okay. So we have to deal with di. Now what are the central values? Okay. Now if such values are given, like if I am talking about the class interval, so there will be such a class interval value. Now the mid mark will be 25, not 25, this is 15. So 55, if this is class interval, that will be the mid value or class mark. There are 2s here. Okay, so that will be 15, 25 and 35. Now the mid value means this is the mid value. If you go upside, there is only one value. If you go the downside, there is only one value. That means the central values, that means this is the central value. Now it's saying one of the central value. Look at this particular point, it should be one of the central value. Now in this particular example we are talking about, we have three values and we can just finally say that the mid value is actual the central value. But what if I'll just add one more class interval in that? That means 40 to 50 I have added, then that will be. Now students, in this case there is 1, 2, 3 and 4 values. So 2 and 3 will be the central values. 2 and 3 the center values. So in case of odd numbers, you have to put only one value, you are having just only one central value. But in the case of even ones, we are going to have two central values, and from these two values we can pick any one. So I can pick this 25 and mark this as our central value, and which will be as deviation. Okay, so we are going to deal with this and we'll know this more clearly, we'll understand this more clearly when we'll solving the questions or understand the step-by-step procedure. Okay. Right. So working rule. Now it's the working rule. What is the working rule here? We are having step 1, step 2. That means we are having some procedures here to cope up with the deviation method. Okay. So now it's about step 1. We are going to do it practically also on the green board too. So step 1, choose a number A from the central values of x of the first column, that will be our assumed mean. Now what I am going to do, I am just bringing it to next level, that you may give not only the values, but in the form of class interval you may give, you may assign the values. So that will be 15 to 25. This class interval is given to you guys. Okay, then 25 to 35 and then 35 to 45. And for that you all have given some frequency. So the frequency f, I am denoting with only f. This f is given as let's suppose 2, 3 and 1. Okay, now from this I have to calculate the x. So xi will be what? Mid of this 10, 20 and 30. You can find it by upper limit plus lower limit by 2, upper limit plus lower limit by 2, upper limit plus lower limit by 2. You have to find it like this. Now these three. Now it's saying choose a number A. Now you have to choose a number A from the central values of x. Values of what? X. Of the first column, that will be our assumed mean. That will be as our assumed mean. So our assumed mean will be A, and that will be from the values of x, and it's saying that from the first column. but it has to be only from the first column when it is given in the form of a single value. But in the case class interval is given, you have to find out the x value first and then put the value a or assume the value a. So come here this side, you are having these values 10, 20 and 30 as the values x. So the mid value will be 20. So value of a will be this, that will be our a equals to 20. Your a will be equals to 20. In the next step, we have talked about the obtained deviation di by subtracting a. Now mention this, listen this carefully, obtain deviation di. Di is the deviation we are talking about. Why we have inserted I? Because we are going to have many values. Same in case we are having values of x and f, we are having many values. All the corresponding values of xi, we will be having some values of di. Okay, then what we are going to do? We have to obtain di by subtracting a from xi. Subtracting a from xi. So this is the formula for di. So I may write this now in the next column. Okay, write down these deviation against the corresponding frequency in the third column. So I am having this value here. Now if I'll talk about this procedure that have been talked about in the question. So what I have to do? I have to write this frequency in the next column of xi. So here it will be, how many was that? 3, 2 and 1. Okay, so done with that. So now in this I have to find out the deviation di, that will be xi minus a. So that will be simply, what is my a? I have assumed this as a. Okay, so my di is xi minus a. Now if xi is, now di is what? Some value equals to xi, x is 20, 10, 20 and 30. So 10, 20 and 30 I am writing. Minus, 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 minus. Okay, the value of a. Value of a is what? Value of a is, we have assumed as 20. So 20, 20, 20. Now just solve this. 10 minus 20 is equals to minus 10. That will be minus 10. Or should I shift all this here, this side? Minus a here. 10, 20 and 30. The values here 10, 20 and 30 and minus 20 from all will give me here, that will be minus 10. Here that will be 0. Now concentrate on this. Okay, the corresponding value of a will be 0 always, because I have assumed a is equals to 0, and if I will minus xi minus a, I will do the xi minus a where the value of xi is same as a, that will be for sure 0. So the central value will be 0. Okay, so that will be 10 here. So my values are minus 10, 0 and 10. The values are minus 10, 0 and 10. For sure the central value will be 0 or one of the central value. Okay, if we are having here 4 values, then obviously if I have assumed this as the central value, or if this is the a, then this value have to be 0, but the next value must not be 0. Okay, so these are the 3 values. This is still now step 2. Now come here, we have done the third column things. In our procedure, it's going to be 4th column. Why? Because we have taken class interval. Okay, now in step 3rd, multiply the frequency of the second column with the corresponding deviation. Now I am multiplying frequency. In previous question, I have multiplied the frequency with the value of x. In this, I am going to multiply the value of frequency to the value of, not this time not with the frequency, this time with the deviation. So we have to do we have to do this value fi and di. Okay, so multiply the frequency of second column with the corresponding deviation di. So fi di is here. in the third column to prepare a fourth column of Fi di. So come here. In this last corner or column, we are going to put the value of Fi and di. In previous ones we have done the Fi di, but in this particular question, particular procedure, particular method, which method is deviation method, we have to do the Fi dx di. So Fi is what here 2 and di is what -10. So that will be 2 multiplied by -10 here, then here 0 multiplied by di is 0, Fi is 20. Okay. This di is 10 and this Fi is not 20, it is, pardon me. Okay, we have to multiply these two. So 2 multiplied by -10 here, 3 multiplied by 0 here and 1 multiplied by 10 here. So that will give you what? This is -20, 0 and 10. Understood it? -20, -20, 0 and 10 here. So these are the values. These are the values. Now what you have to do? You have to sum it up, summation Fi di and the summation Fi here. So what will be the value? What will be the value here? So x bar will be equals to summation Fi di upon summation Fi I equals to 1 to n, I equals to 1 to n, or you may also write it, because this is what? Simply n. So you can write it 1 by n summation 1 to n Fi di. These two formulas are actually correct. So this is your formula and this is the step-by-step procedure to find out the value of mean. Okay, so note this so that we can move forward. Noted? Right, so should I rub it? So procedure you have understood. Is there any confusion, dear students? If there is, we are going to do the questions based on this particular method also. So in that case, we'll understand it completely. Okay. Calculate the arithmetic mean of the following frequency distribution, where the class interval, now see, class interval is given to you, not class mark. Okay, so you have to find class mark and we'll do the thing in the previous one. Now here method is not specified. So if the method is not specified, you can use the direct method also in this particular question. But just we have studied our assumed mean method. So we are going to work on that only. And meanwhile, I have used the deviation method word. So this is not deviation method. This is assumed mean method. Okay. So for this assumed mean method, we will going to solve this question as that is, right? So here this table is giving. So we are making our table this side. Now what we supposed to do? First we'll be making this very first column of class interval. We know that from this class interval, we'll be having the value which is called x or class mark, and that is actually xi, and the formula will be and the formula for that will be upper limit plus lower limit by 2. Okay. Now, after finding the exercise value, we'll be having this value Fi, frequency, which is already given. So, we have to just copy it from our question. That is Fi. After finding this Fi, we'll be finding this is a bit messy. So, frequency is here. We don't need to put any formula in frequency. So, that will be Fi like this here, a very small portion, and then there will be 2 columns right there. In the first one, we are going to have the value of F from find it from here. So, we will be having deviation, that is equals to di. Now, what is di? The value of di is equals to a, right? A, not a, but xi minus a. Okay, xi minus a. Now, that will be the Fi di. Understood? So, these will be the columns. Now, we will be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1 column. So, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1 column. Okay. Again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1 column. So, that's enough. The last one for, right, for the summation. Okay, students. So, we'll go with the class interval, that will be 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, and here we stops, right? Okay. So, there will be the class mark. Now, you will do the calculation and I am just writing the values 55, 65, okay, 75, 85 and this is 95. How many values you are having? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, the value of A will be simply the mid one. This will be A. 2 upside, 2 downside. From the table, mid value, or you can say central value. Central value A is equals to 75. If value of A is equals to 75, that means we have to solve this by the help of 75. Now, the frequency, this is what we have given. We have given this as 8, 6, 12, 11 and 13. Okay. Now, we are having this value xi minus A, that will be equals to di. So, xi is here. So, I will just write xi is here minus value of A. Now, value of A is what? 75. So, 75 and 75 and 75, 75, 75. This value is gonna be for sure 0. What will that value be? Minus of 20. This value 0, 1 minus 10. There it will be 10 and there will it be 20. So this is the value of di and this is the value of frequency fi. So I have to do di fi there. Now that will be 8 2s are 16, so 160. Okay, now 0 here, 6 1s are 6. Okay, now 12 into 0, 0. This is now very easy. This is now becoming very easy to calculate, to sum it up, because if you are doing this type of multiplication, that has to be a very tedious process. So make it advanced, to make it very less time consuming. If you are not doing it with the calculator, but by your own hands or by your own mind, then you are very sorted when you use this kind of method. It may look complex to the previous one, but it is actually very easy when it comes to calculation. Okay, so that will be 10 multiplied by this, so that will be 110, and then there will be 260. So we will sum it up. So for the summation, here it's a sign of summation. We are only concerned about fi di first and second, the frequency. So sum it up, 3 4 5 6 6 6 12, and 12 and 8 is 20. So 0 and 2 forward, carry forward 2. So 2 3 4 5. So that is 50 here. Now I'll go with this one. So 160 and 60. So 160 and 60. That will be minus of 220. Minus of 220 and plus of 110 and 260. That will give you clearly 370. Now 370 minus 220. That will be 051. So that will be 150. So you can just write it 150 here. This rough calculation has to be omitted from there. Okay, done with that. Now student, yes, assume mean method, we have done this first thing. The second thing, a formula was assume arithmetic mean is equals to a plus this formula. Now a is what we have calculated plus this formula, right? The third, multiply, we have done this. Fourth, find the sum of the all entries. The fourth column, we have done that fi di and the summation of frequency, we have done that. Okay, now the question again. So by the formula, of what? Assumed mean. What formula we are having? We are having this formula, student, that will be equals to a plus summation I equals to 1 to n fi di divided by either 1, or you can write it summation I 1 to n fi. Okay, this whole term. Now the value of a, you may say that the value of a is what? 75 plus summation all this fi di is equals to 150, we have calculated, by this sum is 50. So that will be what? 75 plus, now calculate this, this is 3, and this is simply, student, what? X bar equals to 78. So now understood why this method is very good, very less time consuming, even after we are having more steps but less calculation in that. And if you are still confused about that, if this formula of this method of finding the complete x bar, or what you can say mean, is basically less tedious or more tedious, so do one thing, you are having this complete table with yourself. You can also, this is your homework. What's your homework? Homework is do this question by which method? Direct method. And compare. And compare what method you are finding good when it comes to calculation part. Is it tedious or the previous one? Okay. So with that note, I am just finishing this lecture. We'll do the next method, okay, our deviation method in our next lecture. Till then, enjoy life. Be good, do good. Bye-bye.